Okay. The World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world, and it just seems to get bigger every time around. This year especially, Americans got interested in the World Cup and will be interested in the next ones. But unfortunately, the World Cup in 2022 might not be anywhere near as enjoyable for anybody participating, because FIFA chose Qatar to host the World Cup in 2022. When FIFA chose to host the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, it caused a justified uproar, because Qatar has so many factors that make it a poor choice to host the World Cup. Alright, for one thing, it's just so hot in Qatar, and the World Cup is played in the summer, so it doesn't make sense to play the World Cup in Qatar, where it gets to over 40 degrees Celsius on average in the summer months, as shown by my visual aid here, this graph. Alright, the 40 degrees Celsius, for all of y'all, that's 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's just the average, alright? And soccer games are played for 90 minutes, 45 each half. There's gonna need a water break like every 5 minutes, or else there's a serious danger of players getting heat stroke, and that's no fun for anybody to watch. There have been some suggested solutions. There have been 2 suggested solutions to this, but both of them have serious drawbacks. The first solution is that the government of Qatar will build all indoor air-conditioned soccer stadiums that would be disassembled and given to another country after the World Cup is over. This prospective solution, it sounds great, but it has a lot of drawbacks. For one thing, that would hurt the environment a lot, right? There gotta be 10 stadiums, and none of them are built yet. They have they have 10 club teams in Qatar, but none of their stadiums are big enough for the World Cup or indoors, because Qatar plays in the winter, obviously, when it's colder. So they have to make some of those stadiums big enough and indoors, and then they have to build other ones from the ground up. And that would hurt the environment a lot. And another really bad thing with building that is Qatar has terrible working conditions for all of the migrant workers that it has to import, because its population is so small, it doesn't have enough people living in it to build them. Just from June 4th in 2013 to August 8th in 2013, 44 workers from Nepal died. Just from Nepal, out of all the countries, only the 44 from Nepal died. Between 2010 and 2012, over 700 Indian workers died in Qatar. So if we were to build 10 stadiums in Qatar for the World Cup, the newspaper The Manchester Guardian predicts that at least 4,000 migrant workers could die building those stadiums. No sporting event is worth 4,000 lives, ever. We shouldn't be putting the World Cup in a country with such a bad, human rights and such a bad working conditions for all of its workers. They're not even offered free water when they're working in, the 40 degrees Celsius heat. They're forced into overcrowded living conditions. Their salaries and passports are withheld by the employers, so they can't leave the country. So no, it's not worth it. These stadiums would kill 4,000 people. It's just not worth it. The other solution is to move the World Cup to the winter. The World Cup has never been in the winter, for one thing. That solution is saying there wouldn't be any need for indoor stadiums. But the World Cup has never been in the winter, and it would screw up every club schedule, or most club schedule. I personally counted all the players from the 2014 World Cup, and I looked at where every single player... I looked at all the players from different leagues, and I looked at which leagues played during the winter. 607 of the 736 players to go to the 2014 World Cup played in leagues where they play in winter. There are some that don't, but most of them play for teams that play in the winter. So some clubs would just refuse to let their star players go to the World Cup if it was being played in winter. And then not only would the quality of the World Cup be worse, the timing of it is awful for both club teams and national teams, because there would be such a conflict with releasing the players to go to the World Cup. So that's that's why that solution doesn't work either. Neither of the solutions could work, because they have such large drawbacks to them. And then another problem with Qatar hosting the World Cup is they have such a small population. They only have 1.7 million people living in there today. And according to the official statistics of the 2010 World Cup, only 10% of the spectators were foreigners, and the rest were locals. So that just begs the question, how can Qatar expect to fill stadiums if they only have 1.7 million people living in it to begin with? That is by far and away the smallest. Qatar is by far and away the smallest country population-wise and land-wise to ever host a World Cup. So now that we know all the problems with Qatar hosting the World Cup in 2022, we need to know, why would FIFA choose them? What reason is there for FIFA choosing them? And the answer is money. FIFA is a really corrupt organization. There was an NBC News correspondent named Jonathan Alter who revealed that a great source had told him that many members of the World Cup selection committee were bribed $10 million each to vote for Qatar. There are some people within FIFA who have said they would support a revote if proof of it is found. So there's an investigation going on led by a FIFA panel, so it probably won't find anything. So the decision to host the 22 World Cup in Qatar was a really corrupt decision that is going to have many negative consequences if it's gone through with and played in Qatar. And the only solution for it is to just revote. We have the hope that they do find corruption charges, that somebody can uncover them, and then revote in a country that actually deserves the World Cup to host the World Cup. We'll get to. And it could actually be a good World Cup. Thank you.